Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's tutorial, I will be showing you how to cut and sew an Ankara bomber jacket with hoodie. If this sounds like something you are interested in learning, please watch to the end of this video. I folded my fabric for the front into two and the back into two. I folded using quarter of the bust measurement I'm working with plus extra 2.5 inches. So on fold I have 13 inches. I have 13 inches, and on the front piece I folded in 1 inch for zipper allowance, just on the front piece, because there will be front zip in front. And the length of this jacket, I have 25 inches for the front length, and the back length is 3 inches longer than the front length, so I have 3 inches longer. I'm cutting it the way you would cut a shirt. I'm cutting the front and the back together. Then on the shoulder part, the top part, I'm going to measure half of the shoulder measurement plus half inch, and at that point I came down by 2 inches for the shoulder slope, and I'll be connecting it to the tip this way. At this point the front and the back are equal at the shoulder part. Okay, so the excess I have is at the lower part at this point, so I'm going to cut off my shoulder slope like this. Then after cutting this, I'm going to pull down the front parts so that the hem part of the front and the back piece will now be equal at the same length, and the excess 3 inches will now be at the top. So you can see what I have. The excess is now at the top. So what I'm going to do now is to fold the excess I have towards the front piece like this. I'll make sure it overlaps with about quarter or half of an inch. I'm going to iron it down so it stays in place. Just watch what I'm doing. Now I'm going to repeat. When I measure like this, I will now have my 25 inches. Okay, when I measure like this after cutting the shoulder slope, I have 25 inches, which is the length of this jacket. So I'm going to remeasure my shoulder, half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8.5 inches plus extra half inches, make half inch, making it 9 inches. Then from there I'm going to come down for my half of my round armhole as 9.75 inches. So I took ease. I would normally use 9 inches, but because it's a jacket, I took an ease. So, and I'm remeasuring half of the shoulder measurement, the 9 inches there, to connect for my armhole curve. So I'm going to impute here. I'm going to impute quarter of the bust measurement plus extra 2.5 inches, and on this straight line I would find the midpoint and then make a curve for the back armhole like this. Then for the front armhole I would come in at this point by half of an inch, like we normally do for our front armhole curve. I came in by half of an inch, and I'm going to connect this way and then to the top this way. So that's just it for the armhole curve. And then at the hem, I'm not going to shape. What I have on the bust is what I'm going to have at the bottom part of the jacket, so I'm not shaping it. For the neckline, I'm going to use a neck width of 3 inches and a neck depth of 4 inches. So you can see what I measure, 3 inch by 4 inches, and I'm squaring it out, and then I'm going to make a curve like this. At this tip here, I'll come in at this angle by half an inch and then continue the curve towards this other side, almost making like half of a circle, the curve. So after doing this, I'm just going to cut out our jacket. So all I have to do is cut out the armhole. Okay, so for the armhole, I'll cut the back armhole first. I'll cut it first. After cutting it out, I'll then lift up the front part, because the front armhole curve is only going to have effect on the front part. So lift it up and cut it out. Don't cut it with the back together. So after cutting that, I'm going to cut the neckline. So please pay attention here so you don't make a mistake. So for the front, for the neckline, I'm just going to watch what I'll do. I'll lift up the front piece. I'm only cutting from the front piece. Don't make a mistake of cutting the front and the back together. I lifted up the front piece and I'm cutting. So when I get to this folded part, I'll just cut. Just what I did. Okay, so I'm just cutting like this, and this is how you cut it so that you don't make a mistake. All right, so after cutting the back piece, I'm just going to come down at this edge by half of an inch and reconnect it to the neck width this way, and then I'm going to cut this piece off. So that's it on the for the neckline. Okay, so that's just it, how you can cut the neckline. After cutting this, I'm going to just note where this overlap. Okay, I'm just using a chalk to note it. From that chalk place I chalked, I'm going to go up by half an inch and connect down towards the armhole, the curve, and then trim out the excess. I just want it to overlap with half of an inch. Now I'm going to notch um this edge here. Okay, this is our shoulder, this is our actual shoulder, our shoulder point. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to measure the curve I have on my armhole like this. I'm just measuring this. I want to use it to cut out the sleeve. Okay, the curve on the sleeve, I want it to match. For the sleeve, for the sleeves I'm cutting the two at the same time. I folded for one sleeve. You have to put your fabric on fold, and the length for my the length of my fabric is 25 inches. I didn't remove anything from the length I would normally have for the sleeve, though I'm going to have a band at the hem of the sleeve. So I have 25 inches, and the width of my fabric is about 10 inches. That's what I have on fold. I have 10 inches, and the length is um 25 inches. So I'm going to come down for the sleeve caps height by 4 inches and just make a curve. And when I make this curve, I would measure to see if I would get the 11 inches I had when I measured the armhole curve. Okay, so when I measured, I didn't have that, so I'm just recurving again to the point where I would get this 11 inches, right? So I'm just measuring again, and I have 11 inches. So I have what I need. Then at the hem part, I'm going to measure at the sleeve opening, the hem of the sleeve, I'm measuring 6.5 inches. Okay, so the round circumference I want is 12 inches, and I added 1 inch. So when you divide that, is 13 6.5 inches. So that's what I have, and I connected, and I'll go on and cut the sleeve. After cutting my sleeves, I'm going to use the main fabric to cut out lining for the jacket and the sleeves. So what I'm going to do now is I'm placing them right sides facing each other. I'm going to join them, the front and the back by the shoulder by half inch, and sew the sides by half inch. I'll also do the same thing for the lining pieces. So I want to quickly say something, that when I'm cutting a bomber jacket, I don't reduce the length of my jacket. What I normally do is I add 8 inches to any half length I'm working with. So that is what I did here. So I have 25 inches, and I won't be reducing the length irrespective of the fact that I'll be adding a stretchy band at the end. Okay, so I have my 25 inches. So what I'm going to do now after joining like this is to measure what I have, the circumference I have, okay, at the hem. So I'm just going to measure what I have at the hem to know what width I'll be needing for the band. So when I measured, I had 51 inches, and this stretchy fabric, this fabric is stretchy, so I won't be needing the whole 51 inches. So I would be cutting depending on how stretchy your fabric is. That's how you cut. This what I'm using is very, very stretchy. Okay, so, and I'll be adding Ankara at both ends of it. So I'm going to cut 30 inches. So I have it on full, so I'm going to cut out 15 inches for the width. So that's what I'm measuring like this. I'll cut out 30. So I've cut it out. What I have is 30 inches, and the height is about 5.5 inches, and I'll be adding Ankara on both ends. The Ankara, the width is 5.5 inches, and the height would be the same as what I have on the stretchy band, but I have excess. So after joining together, I'm going to trim out the excess. So I'll go and join them with about quarter or half of an inch. That's how I'll join. So I've joined the Ankara to this stretchy fabric. I'm going to trim out the excess I have in the height of the Ankara piece that I joined. So after trimming this out, then I'll be attaching the band to the jacket and the lining at the same time. So I'll fold it. This is how I'm going to fold it and attach it. Okay, so the first thing I'll do will be to find the midpoint of this hem of the jacket. I folded it to two equal parts, and I'm going to notch the midpoint. You see what I did? I'll do the same thing for the lining piece as well. Then for this band, I'm not going to notch, I'm going to fold together to find the midpoint, but instead of notching, I'm going to use my chalk to mark the midpoint at both sides like this. See what I did? Okay, when I mark it this way, I'm going to also mark it at the other side, right? I'll mark this and this way. Okay, so then I'm going to pin them. So what I'm going to do now is to get it, you see on the right side, you see how I placed it, midpoint to midpoint. You can see that this stretchy part is shorter, but it's not a problem. I'll have to stretch it while sewing. So midpoint to midpoint, then I'm going to get my lining right side touching the right side of the fabric and the band sandwiched in between. So I'm going to pin them together. So you've seen I've pinned. So when you're pinning, you stretch out as you're pinning, but you notice that when I want to sew, when I want to start sewing, I would start sewing from the black band, the stretchy fabric. I won't sew the Ankara part. I'm going to sew from one end of the stretchy fabric. I will stretch as I sew till the other end where the black band, the stretchy band ends. Okay, I will sew and show you what I have. So I've sewn together like I explained. Okay, so I left this other part, the Ankara part of the band. You see, I have not sewn this point. So the essence of this is because I want to attach it separately on the lining and on the Ankara. So just pay attention and watch. I'm going to pick one side of the band. Are you seeing what I'm doing? I'll pick one side of the band, the side with the Ankara, and sew it on the Ankara piece only, on the main fabric only. I would pin and sew. Then I'll pick the side of the band that is touching the facing the lining and sew it to the lining. Okay, so I'll sew that and show you what I have. So as you can see, I've done that. I've gone to the machine and done that. So this way I'll have a neat finishing. Okay, so you see how I neatly finished this. All right, and this other side, the center is open. So that's what I wanted to achieve. So I've done that for the two sides. At this point, I'll be attaching a zipper to this. The first thing will be to attach the zip to the lining, to the main fabric, sorry. So I'll be attaching with the 1 inch I left for my zip allowance, but I won't be getting to the end. Okay, so the way I'm going to attach the zip, I'll come up from the hem of the band by 1/2 inch. So you see I came up by 1/2 inch. That is where I want the zip to stop, right? So I'm going to pin and make sure my zip stops at that point. So that's what I'm going to do like this. And when I pin, I'm going to sew and stop. The zip will stop there. So I've attached this zip. Like I said, I stopped at this point, and at the neckline I didn't sew 1/2 inch. I left it unsewn. I will be you will find out the reason as we go on. And then I'm going to pin my lining now and follow, to make it easy, follow the seam you have when you attached the main fabric. So you follow the seam and attach it. So that's what I'm going to do here, and sew all the way down. I'll also leave the 1/2 inch unsewn here. So I'll do that and show you what I have. So for this part, I've already attached this side. I've attached this side, so you can see from what I have that I've already attached it. So I'm going to turn it to the right side so that you can see the outcome of what I have. So you can see how it is. Okay, like you can see the 1/2 inch I left before. So I'll attach it to the other side. Then for the sleeves, I've closed the sides with 1/2 inch for both the lining and the main fabric. I'm going to attach a stretchy band at the hem as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, for the stretchy band, I have a height of 3 inches and a width of 9 inches. Okay, so what I have here is 9 inches, while for the sleeve opening circumference I have 12 inches. So I have 6 inches on fold, right? So I'm going to close this with 1/4 inch and then fold it in this way. I've closed it and fold it. This is how I'm going to attach it to the hem. So what I will do will be to turn my lining to the right side and then tuck it in. I turn the lining to the right side, and the main fabric is still, the wrong side is still up. Okay, so when I tuck it in, it's going to be right side to right side. Do you understand? Then I'm going to sandwich this in between the lining and the main fabric like this, and I'm going to make sure that the seams align. I'm pinning seam to seam to seam. Do you understand? And then I'm going to stretch out and pin all around and then sew them together. So I've done that. I'm going to just show you, this is the sleeve I've done. I'm going to be demonstrating with the second sleeve how you can go about having a neat finishing for your sleeve. So here is the sleeve. I've attached the band. You see what I did? I've sewn it together. So I'm just bringing it out this way. So when you pull out, you're going to have a neat finishing at the hem as well. So all the seams are hidden when you sew it this way. So you can see what I have. Now to attach the sleeve to the jacket, I'm going to first attach the main fabric first. Okay, so I'm going to attach the main fabric, the sleeve of the main fabric to the jacket, the armhole. Okay, so I'm turning to the wrong side. I'm turning out the wrong side, so I'm going to put this in right side to right side. That's what you're going to do. I pushed down the lining so it doesn't get in the way. Now right side to right side, like I said, I'm going to first pin. You remember where I notched as the shoulder of the as the tip of the shoulder, okay, on the jacket. So I've notched the center of my sleeve, so this is where the notch comes in. So the shoulder of the jacket isn't where you joined the front and the back together, but where the notch is. So the notch on the sleeve is going to be touching the notch on the jacket like this. Okay, so just take notes. And then the seam, the underarm seam of the sleeve and that of the jacket, you also match them and then pin everything. Make sure everything, if you sew with 1/2 inch and measured correctly, everything should match. So I've pinned them together. I'm going to go and sew with 1/2 inch all round. After pinning, I'll sew with 1/2 inch all round. So I've sewn round like I explained, and I'm going to turn it to the right side so that we can see what I have at this point. So when I turn it out, you notice that the sleeve is only joined, okay, to the main fabric, and you see that the opening for the armhole on the lining is still open. So I'm going to turn it back to the wrong side now to show you how to attach it properly to the lining sleeve to the lining of the jacket. So just watch what I'm doing. Okay, so from the one I've sewn to the main fabric, I'm pulling out the lining. You see how I pulled it out? Make sure it is not twisted in any way. I've pulled it out and arranged it. Watch what I'm doing. This will help you in fixing it correctly. So I've pulled it out. I'm going to make sure you see this joining of the shoulder, the joining, the parts where the front and the back is joined. I'm making sure that it is lapping. Okay, it is on the same side. What I have on the fabric is the same side of what I have on the lining. Okay, they are facing the same way. Just watch closely what I'm doing. I pulled out my lining from the main fabric and I'm laying it, okay, so that the seam side of the lining and the seam side of the main fabric are the same way. The top parts, the parts where I notch, are facing the same way, and the joining on the shoulder parts are facing the same way. If you place it this way, you will definitely fix your sleeve to the lining correctly. Okay, your lining sleeve correctly. So you see how I placed it. It is not twisted, and the shoulder part is on the same direction. The armhole part is on the same direction. So you see what I did. Then I'm going to pin them right side to right side. You see what I did, so that the seam, I'm pinning so that the seam will be on the wrong side. So just watch what I'm doing and how I'm going to pin all round. So I'll the same way I'll match my seam to seam and the notch part to the notch part of the lining. So the same thing I did when sewing the main fabric is the same way I'm going to pin before I sew the lining. So just watch carefully what I'm doing. This way you would be able to sew your lining correctly, the sleeve to the lining correctly. If not, if you don't do it this way, you might end up making a mistake and then have to loosen it again and start all over. So just take your time, pin all around before you sew. I've sewn it together. Okay, so I've sewn together, so I'm going to bring it out to the right side so that we'll see if it was correctly done. So when you turn out to know you sewed it well is when you pull out the sleeve for the main fabric, the lining piece should follow suit. It should just follow it directly and come out. But if you didn't do it well, it won't come out this way. Okay, so this is it. I've closed up everything, so all that is left open now is the neckline. Okay, so I'm just going to zip this up so I will see what we'll have at this point. So the next thing now will be to measure my neckline, my neck circumference, what I have, the circumference I have on the neckline. So I'm just going to take that measurement right now from one end of the zipper to the other end. Okay, so I'm just measuring that right now. So I measured round and what I had was 18 inches. Okay, so I measured and my circumference is 18 inches. For the hoodie, I have my fabric on fold. I'll be cutting the lining piece as well because I'll be lining with the Ankara. So on fold, I have a width of 12 inches and the length of 17 inches. And this measurement should work for most adults. So I'm just ruling out this point. This is where my 17 inches starts from. So at this end of my fabric, which is the folded end, I'll come inward by 4 inches and go down by 4 inches and make a curve connecting the 2 points like this. Then at this open edge of my fabric, I'm going to come down by 1 inch and also make a curve inward like this. Then at this folded end, I'm going to go up by 1.5 inch and then slightly connect it to the tip this way, to the end like this. So I'm just connecting it like this. I'm going to repeat this again. I'm going to say this again. At this open end, I came down by 1 inch and made a curve. At this point, I came in by 4 inch and came down by 4 inch and connected. And at this other end, I went up by 1.5 inch and connected. Then I'm going to find the midpoint of these two curves at this end. At that midpoint, I came inward by 1/2 inch and I'm connecting from the curve from the top to that 1/2 inch and then to the lower part like this. So you can see what I have. And on this point is where I'm going to measure my neckline. So this is on fold, so I'm going to measure 9 inches, which is half of the neck circumference plus extra 3/4 inch for sewing allowance, and I will connect towards this point. So you can use 1/2 inch sewing allowance if you want, but I just added 1.5 3/4 inch allowance. So I'm going to repeat this again before I cut. So at this point, at this side, I came in by 4 inches and the lower part 4 inches and connected like this. At this point, I came down by 1 inch and connected towards the side, and at this end I came up by 1.5 inches and slatted it this way, and then I measured half of the neck line I'm working with and added 3/4 inch, and then here I found the midpoint, measured 1/2 inch and connected towards the both ends. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. So I'm cutting. If you don't want to line with your Ankara, you want to line with a different material, you can go ahead and cut. The second part should be another material, but here I want to line with this Ankara fabric. So I have 4 pieces here. So after cutting it, you can see I have 4 pieces. So I'm going to sew with 1/2 inch all round like this. So I'll sew like this for the 2 of them. So after sewing, I would iron it out properly. After ironing, I'm going to turn them right sides to right side, touching each other, and then I'm going to sew with 1 inch, 1/2 inch allowance from one end to the other. So I'm going to pin like this and sew. I would sew them together with 1/2 inch. Then when I sew, I will turn it to the right side and iron properly, which is what I've done here. I've sewn and ironed. You can see what I have. If you want, you can top stitch the edge. So this is what I have at this point. So after sewing this, I'm going to attach it to the neckline. The first thing will be to notch the neckline to know the midpoint. So I'll fold into 2 equal parts and then I'll notch the center for the fabric. I'll also do the same thing for the lining piece. So I'm folding to know the center. Why I'm notching this is that the center of the hoodie should be touching this notch part. Okay, so that's how I'm going to pin. So to pin, I'm going to first pin my hoodie to the main fabric. It should be, if to get it right, to be easy for you, turn it to the right side and pin from one zip end to the other. Don't enter the zipper allowance. And when you pin it from the right side, it's easier to pin from the right side. Then you can then turn out your fabric to the wrong side and then pin the lining. Okay, make sure everything is matching same to same with the main fabric. See how I sandwiched it, and then I'm going to pin my lining like this, so that I'll sew once. Okay, so I'll use half inch to sew. You sew across from the zipper allowances, though the hoodie didn't get to the zipper allowance, so sew from one zipper allowance to the other end. So I've done that, I've closed up, so I can now freely easily cut out this excess I have, the excess zip I have. Now everything is closed in. What I will do will be to open a side of the seam to enable me bring out everything to the right side. So that's what I've done. I will take a seam ripper to further open this opening. Just to choose a side of your lining and open it up a little bit to enable you bring out everything to the right side. Okay, so that's what I've done, and I'm bringing it out to the right side now. So when I bring this out, I would iron properly. And let me bring it out first and show you what everything looks like at this point. So as you can see the hoodie from one zip to the other zip point. So you see it didn't extend beyond the zip point. So you can see what I have at this point. Everything is neatly finished. So I'll just stop stitch this part. I'll close it up. Okay, so I'm going to just zip this up so that we'll see what we'll have. For this jacket, I made a single welt pocket, and I'll be posting the tutorial of how I made this pocket in a next video, because this one is already too long, so I couldn't include it in this video. And if you want to make your jacket with a patch pocket and you don't want a welt pocket, I also have a detailed tutorial on how I made a bomber jacket with a collar and a patch pocket, which is already on this channel, and I'll be dropping the link to that video in the description box so that you can check that out. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe if you're yet to subscribe to this channel, and turn on the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. And don't forget to give this video a like so that others can get to see it. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.